and welcome to 2005. 2005 is 15 years ago. 15 years! You know what else is 15 years? People who can drive in America in about a year apparently. What on earth is wrong with your laws, America? I mean, come the hell on! Driving at 16, drinking at 21, you're supposed to do it the other way around so that people can get absolutely plastered and then realise what a bad idea it is in order to get so absolutely off your face that the next morning or, you know, maybe the same evening, you can still drive. 2005 saw us with the reboot, or the relaunch rather, of Doctor Who. And yeah, we're all still in quarantine, the world is ending, and there was another international internet rewatch party. So we're gonna keep doing these for every single time that, you know, the people from Doctor Who magazine tried to get everybody to watch a single episode together. This time we're taking a trip of a lifetime. We're talking all the way back to 2005. That's when I first moved to England, and oh my god, I've moved to England over 15 years ago. Anyway, I'm old, so Russell T Davies. Russell T Davies has never had a Twitter account, and because Stephen Moffat came back for Dave the Doctor, Russell T Davies made a Twitter account for the rewatch party of Rose. This is madness, this is mental. I love how this entire quarantine thing is bringing people together through the internet somehow, despite the fact it's not actually, you know, bringing people together. But it's like, it's giving us like people connecting in a certain way of humanity. I don't quite know how to put it otherwise. I love it. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. So if you are a recurring viewer here, you might be privy to the fact that most of these things are off the cuff. They're like a little bit vloggy kind of things. I don't do a lot of research. I don't mull over them very much. Sometimes I'll intersplice like these little clips where I'm googling names of people I should know. So don't go in expecting a whole spiel of me talking about how this show came to be back then. Again.
Gee, it's good to be together again.
So, Doctor Who is, well, it's quite obvious. There's like two separate entities. There's like Classic Who, which, to be honest, is still divided into very obvious chunks of like, this is different than what came before, but we'll talk about that maybe some other day or not. And NuWho, which is mostly the same-ish, kind of. I mean, you can still make an argument like every showrunner brings in a completely different vibe, but then still, I'd argue that some iterations of the show are more similar than some other iterations, and even under some of the showrunners, I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to start that argument here, the show feels different. So the point here is, because I like to take my time to get to the point, Doctor Who relaunched in 2005. They cast Christopher Eccleston. We talked about Christopher Eccleston last time during the Day of the Doctor rewatch, but this isn't a typical actor you'd cast for the Doctor, because Christopher Eccleston has got that hard vibe. I don't want to say he's like the ultimate badass, but you don't cast him as the lovely, dovely, friendly type. And yeah, it's an inspired casting. It's an original casting. Like, if you tell me, like, if he would cast as the Doctor today without having been the Ninth Doctor, I'd be like, I'm not quite sure if that's a great cast. Despite the fact we've already had Peter Capaldi. Lengthy intro aside, 2005 was when Rose hit the screen. Russell T Davies took inspiration from things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it shows. And you know what? it's a good thing. And here's why that's a good thing. The episode Rose gives us a more slice of life insight to how people perceive the Doctor. So we have this girl working in London for a department store, and it's all very blasé, and we see a little montage of her and a mum and a boyfriend and a job, and it's not very exciting. And then the Doctor rocks up, and then suddenly like things are threatening and things are dangerous, and he drops out of her life, seemingly like a blip. He keeps coming back, and the danger keeps finding her for some reason. And it's not intentional on his behalf, it just kind of happens. And these two spirits, in a way, I don't want to sound all deep, but the Doctor is still, and I'm gonna use this terminology again, Wartorn. He's still tired of the Great Time War. But we didn't know this back then, so it's just like, here's this strange man, and the audience was still fresh to him, and putting ourselves in the perspective of a young girl to bring us back to the idea of Doctor Who, because even way back in the 1960s, this is how we started. We got off with Ian and Barbara, two people going like, what's wrong with this girl, and why is she hiding in a junkyard with her strange grandfather in a police box? And now we have like this young girl who's like, who's this strange man who keeps popping up every time I'm in danger? And we as the audience, even though for many of us, this is the first time we get to know this, it's brilliant. It's like easing us into the world. Is this episode perfect? Obviously not. This is not a good argument. A perfect episode doesn't mean it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't mean it has to be great. There are niggles. There's always going to be niggles. But on the whole, I would say this is a perfect way to reintroduce your audience to Doctor Who, or to reintroduce your audience to the show in general. Like, if you have this format, which is a condensed little nugget of like what the show is about, you could do this with any show. You could bring back any show just as long as you have these essential truths. I'm more rambling about the meta context of the episode rather than the episode itself. The episode itself is, like I said, it's a bit of a slice of life. We see Rose having a life, the Doctor rocks up, the Wartorns attack, and can we just talk about how brilliant it was to bring in the Wartorns for the first episode of Doctor Who? Because the Wartorns are shop mannequins. That's basically their gimmick. They're shop mannequins, but they've only shown up twice before, and both of them were like all the way back into the John Pertwee era in the 70s. So here we are in current day and age, and what do you use as a monster to introduce Doctor Who to a new public? You have to scare the little children a little bit. That's the idea. Scare them behind the sofa. Use something in everyday life and try to make it scary. We all see mannequins every day, so if they all started moving and then they started killing us en masse and feeding upon our waste, not like bodily waste, like industrial waste, yeah, that's a good way to do it. So bringing the Wartorns back for their first appearance in the first appearance of the new series, lovely stuff. That's a great inspirational thing to do. And then we get like this conspiratorial figure on the internet who's trying to Google the Doctor, but all he finds is this one man, and we get to know them, and we get to know the Doctor as an audience member, like for the first time. Like, what's this figure doing through all of time? What's this identical person all the time doing at the Titanic? Assassination of JFK. Ooh. I love Clive in this episode, by the way. Clive is so warm and friendly. He's got like an aluminum foil hat, you know that, but he's not a bad egg. More on that later. So the Doctor and Rose, they bond. We see them running away a lot in hand, and I love that the Doctor took her hand in the first scene to take her away from the threat. But later on, when they figure stuff out and they run in hand again, and it's just, it's like, it's upgraded from like, I'm gonna take you away from the danger to we're both running towards the danger. And it's lovely stuff. The fact that this Doctor can be so clever and still a little bit thick, so that Rose has to clue him in on, you know, the giant London Eye in the background. That's great stuff. So there's stuff that doesn't really work. So like when Mickey gets eaten by the bin, there's very obvious green screen when he's stuck to it with its tendrils, and the bird when Mickey gets eaten, that's like, yeah, a little bit too heavy on the comedy. Plus the fact that Russell T Davies said he wrote Rose as an equal to the Doctor. Now I get this concept. I get the concept of wanting to make your companion brave, bold, capable, someone who can get things done. But, you know, in the end, having someone be the equal to the Doctor, equating to eventually just her swinging down a chain, because, yeah, she saved his life, but to me, that doesn't really mesh. It's like, it's not 100% compatible. But the heart is there, and a lot of this episode, in the end, is still, you feel that the heart is there, the intent is good, and it feels good. So the episode is good. And Clive, I love Clive, and I kind of wish he'd not bitten the bullet. It's a good way to have stakes and kill off a character that we are invested in without having it be a character that we still want to see come back. That sounds harsh towards Clive, but like, I mean, Jackie could have died in this episode and the effect would have been about the same, but Jackie was obviously gonna come back because she was Rose's mum. But Clive was someone who we saw being friendly and warm towards Rose. He was caring and he was like indulging his information, and he was sharing all his stuff with her because he wanted her to come into the world of the Doctor Who. And for him to go like, all the stories I've read all my life were true, and then an Wartorn, oh my god, and then an Wartorn just shoots him unceremoniously. No last words, no anything. An Wartorn shoots him, and we see his wife and kid reacting, and it's just, that's sad. I know that the actors come back in the audios as an alternate universe version of Clive, but that doesn't count. This episode, it's sad that Clive dies. There's so much good stuff in this episode, and I could fill hours upon hours talking about it, but Rose is Rose. The episode Rose is probably one of the most perfect relaunches of a series ever. There are flaws, but they're not heavy flaws, and it's a great entryway to the series. And it just hammers down the fact that Christopher Eccleston could have done so much more. If it weren't for the issues he was coping with, if it wasn't for the troubled production he was dealing with. And all I can say is that I'd like to thank Russell T Davies and Christopher Eccleston and all the production staff and everybody else involved for bringing this show back, because I wasn't aware that it came back until the Christmas invasion. That's when I first saw it on TV again. Oh, wait, hang on, Doctor Who's back. That's fantastic. So yeah, that was a trip of a lifetime, and the show is still going at this point. So there's going to be another rewatch party in the future. It's going to be Vincent and the Doctor. So join me again next time we see each other for #TheUltimateGinger. Also, can somebody tell me where I can buy a 9th/10th Doctor sonic screwdriver? Because the ones I buy here on the internet aren't very good. I mean, like in the Dutch shops. Maybe they're on the English shops. So feel free to debate me, discuss me, insult me, anything in the comments down below. Something, please. This corona thing is serious. Try to limit yourself to human interaction. Watch your hand washing, hygiene, I suppose. Something penis. No penis. See ya.